Hey everybody, welcome into Bleacher Talk. I'm Jordan Spurgeon alongside Claudia Collins, and I was just looking at schedules before we get into quick picks, Claudia, and I didn't realize we only have 3 weeks left in the season. Where's the time gone? It's just flying right by.
It absolutely is. And as you were saying that, it made me think like, I wonder if it's because of the weather, because until like 4 days ago, it was still like 95 degrees out. So
Yep.
maybe we were still in like this early fall mentality. And then all of a sudden, it's like, it's cold out. There's only 3 weeks left in the season. Like the playoffs are on the horizon. Like it all feels so much closer. But it's always because it's so much fun. And, it's the saying, time flies when you're having fun. And I guess that's the truth.
Yeah, we're having a lot of fun today too on the show. A little bit different. We just had to change things up a little bit. So we've got obviously quick picks with Bruce Cooper coming up in a couple seconds here, and then we're going to catch up with Cody Cameron and Jess Chili as well, and kind of get their thoughts on things happening around the valley and in high school football, and then of course our social spotlight with Eliab Goodbye. So I think now's a better time than any, Claudia, to bring in Bruce, right?
Of course. I don't know why we ever wait so long because we absolutely love having Bruce on. Bruce, thanks so much for joining us and for continuing your lead, but you take the lead now with Jordan because you guys are now tied at
Oh,
17 and 7 after Bruce, you were 2-1 last week. So was I. Spurge was 3-0, which really gave him the edge to tie things up. I'm only back 3 games though. We did have to do the math beforehand to confirm, us sports journalists, maybe I can't speak for everyone, but between Spurge and I, we're not great at math. So 17 plus 14 took us a second. And I guess I've got my Halloween kitty to help make some picks. But Bruce, the first game that we should get into, I think, is Red Mountain at Williams Field. I know this is a matchup that's always fun for you to choose when you've got Williams Field on the map. So what do you think?
yeah, a little inside story there. I picked against Steve Campbell and his Blackhawks, back during their championship matchup against Centennial. And he used that as a motivating tool for his entire team and shocked the house. They beat the Coyotes and were state champions. They have the trophy uh, proudly adorned in their trophy case of their weight room there area, and he won't let me forget it. He will not let me forget it. He hits on me about it every time. And so we have a matchup this week: Red Mountain at Williams Field. I mean, listen closely, Coach Campbell. I'm a huge Jacoby Lane fan at Red Mountain, but your Blackhawks have dropped 4 of your last 5 games. You're not trending in the right direction for me to have confidence to actually pick you to win the game. So, yes, coach, I know it's going to be a thorn in your side, but I'm taking the Red Mountain Lions to beat you guys. Give me Red Mountain 21, Williamsfield 17. Ouch.
Hey, Bruce, we like the honesty and you always do it in the kindest way. So I don't think any coach is allowed to be upset with you for making any of your picks. And I've also got to say, I feel like this is one of the tougher lineups that we've had as far as the 3 games that we're picking from. So, we're doing the best we can. Going off of that, I have to agree with everything you've said. They're not trending in the right direction. I've seen Williams Field this season. I was a lot more impressed with them last year as opposed to this year. I think that there's just not as much team chemistry. Like something just, I can't put my finger on it, but something doesn't feel like it's connecting. And then you look at Red Mountain and they're like totally connected. I mean, if you think about wide receiver Jacoby Lane and their quarterback Carter Crispin, like they're just like, you could tell they're buds on and off the field, and they've just got that like chemistry that immediately like there's something there. And Jacoby Lane on fire. He's committed to USC, and it's not all about commitments and all of that, but I just think Red Mountain's a little bit better prepared and has had the better trajectory. I'm gonna go. It's gonna be low scoring. I'm gonna sit. Well, maybe not super low. 20-10. We'll put it at. What do you think, Spurge?
I think it's a really interesting matchup. I mean, Williams Field, if they can control the game early with running back Dylan Lee back there, who has over 1,200 rushing yards, even if you take away his 500-yard performance, he'd be averaging well over 100 yards per game this season. So that's their opportunity to win. But that would require their defense to slow down the high-rolling offense that Red Mountain has. Carter Crispin locked in this season, 16 touchdowns, only 1 pick, so a lot of scoring. little to no turnovers for Red Mountain this year. You guys obviously mentioned Jacoby Lane. Lennox Lawson's having a good year. Preston Heap is doing things, especially in the red zone for them. So I really think this one does favor Red Mountain, and I'm going to say they're going to win 28-14.
All right, all in agreement so far. The next matchup is ALA Queen Creek at Higley. Spurge, I'll let you start off.
This is tough. I have not written down my pick yet. ALA Queen Creek has played really, really great football this year, coming in 6-1. They're only lost to Queen Creek in that rivalry game over in the Andy Liberta Classic. And then you look at Higley, the other time we had them on quick picks was their only loss. We all picked them to beat Horizon, and Horizon was able to scrape out a late victory against them. But that's not a knock on Higley. Right now, offensively, Jamar Malone is looking like one of the top quarterbacks in the state, regardless of class. I know he's still very young, but regardless of class, he's arguably a top 5 quarterback in the state of Arizona right now. And I think the difference is going to be just what he brings to the table. I like Drew Cowart at ALA Queen Creek, the quarterback as well. But give me Higley in this one in a tough-fought matchup. It's going to go down to the wire. I'm going to say Higley 35-32.
I also don't know where my pick stands yet. I'll let Bruce go first, but it'll be interesting to see with this matchup where we all picked Higley, what we're going to do now. So Bruce, where are you picking here?
Well, Spurge is right. I mean, Jamar Malone is a terrifically gifted quarterback. I mean, he has the Knights offense rolling really, really well. I mean, he's only a sophomore, as Jordan was saying. But I'm going to tell you this. On the other side of the ball, Riker Scott and Gage Rogers. I mean, these guys between them, they have like 22, 23 sacks, something like that. They can get after the quarterback. And I think at the end of the day, I like that aspect. I like ALA Queen Creek to win this one. I'm going to go with them. I'm going with Ty Detmer and Max Hall and those guys to knock off Eddie Zuby's boys. Give me ALA Queen Creek, 24, Higley 17.
All right, fairly close. I am surprised at your pick. I'm not going to lie. But it's not because I don't disagree. I think this is probably the hardest game of our 3 to choose because it does feel pretty evenly matched and it could go in either direction. However, the buzz between media that has seen both of these teams play that I've spoken to is that Higley's kind of that sleeper team, as in people are sleeping on Higley regardless of their record, because it's interesting to sleep on a team that's actually doing so well. I believe they only have 1 loss this season, as we just discussed. I think they're quite easily the 5A championship team that I expect them to be in that championship game. That's, I guess, my take on it. We've already talked about the quarterback, the sophomore, Jamar Malone, a lot of buzz around him. I have also heard top 5 quarterbacks in the state, which says a lot when we've also got the number 1 quarterback in the country in that same conversation. So yeah, I think I have to go Higley. We'll see how it shapes out this time, and I'll go 24-17. We'll do the same sort of deal here. The last game, though, is Basha at Chandler. And I think maybe this game is going to be interesting to see where we all pick, because I feel like it could go either way and there would be an argument for both. This game is going to be televised on ESPNU. And anytime that we've seen a game get that type of television recognition, tons of fans, the sidelines are packed. And I think that just environment really lights up the team, and the crowd lights up the team. So I'm really excited just to be there and see this go down. 2 top-notch quarterbacks. I mean, we're talking Damon Williams Jr. He's the number 9 ranked quarterback, but then he's going up against the number 1 quarterback in the country in the class of 2024, and Dylan Raiola. But it's interesting because Demond is a dual threat quarterback. And then we've seen Raiola, and I've got to say, I've only gotten to see him play in 2 games. And it's not to say that he didn't live up to his number 1 ranking, but I still haven't quite seen that. The game that sticks out to me is that Chandler Saguaro game. The first half, I'm not sure what was going on. They connected the dots in the second half of that game, but I'm just not. Man, this game's really tough for me to choose. And I also don't know whoever wins this game. I'm not sure if that actually defines them as the better team. I think it's going to take the playoffs and the Open Division Championship to actually determine who the best team in 6A is. Khalil Valentine has really, really impressed me. He's super quick. He's had 19 touchdowns on the season. I would say he's kind of that like rising star. I think at the end of the day, both teams are stacked, but I think I have to go Chandler with this one. And if you would have asked me 4 weeks ago, my answer might have been different, but I think I'm going to go Chandler. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I mean, we've got two really solid quarterbacks, so I think we're going to go 40-35. I don't know. I'm just making up numbers here. Spurge. We were kind of talking beforehand. I don't know which direction you're going in.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the headliners, the two quarterbacks, and I think they're going to both be able to put on a show despite how strong both defenses are, especially in the secondary. I think maybe the difference maker on defense for Chandler is going to be Urlacher. I think he's having a phenomenal season. He just got a couple offers coming his way this past week as well. Still has one of the hardest hits I've heard all year. It was in San Diego for their opener, and I think it could have been heard at Chandler High School. It was one of the biggest hits I've seen on a high school football field. And over at Basha, you've got Jackson Browning and a couple of those guys on defense. Cole Martin, obviously, who's going to be recognized as one of the ESPN top 100 players on a big thing coming out later this week as well. So I think defensively, it's also pretty even despite the maybe slight difference in quarterback play. But I do think it's going to come down to which running back has the bigger day. Day Buchanan for Basha is electric. He really is the cog in that offense that makes it work. Yes, we talk about Damon Williams Jr. and Bryson Dedman and all those guys in the passing game, but Day makes it work. And then for Chandler, Khalil Valentine has solidified himself as one of the top running backs in the state of Arizona. And I just think in this game, big plays at the end, I think Chandler right now has the slight edge because of experience. Give me Chandler 34, Basha 28.
Bruce, here's your chance to extend your lead.
Well, I listened to what both you and Spurge had to say. I can't disagree with anything either one of you said. I mean, no question. The reason why this is an ESPNU game is because of that marquee quarterback matchup. But I tell you, the reason why I'm going to take Chandler is the reason why I think they will wind up playing Liberty to see who's the Open Division champion. And it's Khalil Valentine. I mean, not only is he a fantastic running back, but he's so gifted catching the ball out of the backfield and being a weapon there as well. So until I see something that can take that away from Chandler, and I don't think that Basha has that, I'm going with the Wolves. Give me Rick Garrison and his Chandler Wolves 35, Chris McDonald and his Basha Bears 28.
Love to see it. I can't wait to see where this all lands us next week. Hopefully a little bit more of a lead. I don't know. Who knows what'll happen? I feel like all of these matchups, we could have kind of swung either direction and it would have been fun to see. But Bruce, we always love having you on. Thank you so much for joining us, and stick around. When we come back, we'll have Chili and Cody to chat all things high school football. Hey everyone, welcome back to Bleacher Talk. I'm Claudia Collins alongside Jordan Spurgeon, and you may see two familiar faces on the screen as well. We've got Chili and Cody Cameron alongside with us today. We're really excited to have you both because we always just rave about the football experts that you guys are in not just the Valley, but in the state of Arizona. But I kind of want to jump into some more somewhat recent news with the AIA Open Division rankings coming out. Initial thoughts, Chili. What do you think when you saw him come out?
I mean, I personally love the Open Division. I love the Open Division playoffs. I love the opportunity that it gives to have a clear-cut champion, because there were so many times over the like past like decade and a half, where you had multiple undefeated teams, multiple one-win teams winning the 6A, the 5A, or the 5A and the 4A, and we just didn't know. So I think that, you know, having whatever the rankings ever are, whether it's all 6A teams or two 5A teams or a couple 4A teams, I love it. I'm all about it.
So I usually disagree with Chili on almost everything, and I love to do so, but this one I do agree. I love the Open State Championship teams. I mean, I think it's good for the state of Arizona. Let's face it, it brings revenue to the state of Arizona and the AIA. And I look at the rankings, and it's early. You know, there's a lot of things that are going to play out. A lot of these teams that are in the initial rankings, they're going to play each other. So this is going to move up and down, side to side, left and right. And at the end of the day, though, it's the best of the best. And so, you know, till there's mentioning 5A, 4A, and all that, I'm sure we'll disagree on what teams will be in there. But in terms of the actual Open State Championships, I'm all for it.
What about the narrative about, you know, a lot of coaches, especially in 4A, don't want to be a part of the Open? What would you say to those coaches that are just skeptical and would rather win a 4A championship?
Well, I think a couple of factors play into it. You see some of these 4A schools, they have enrollments of 1,400 students. You know, it's almost a quarter of some of the bigger 6A schools. So they have that. They don't have the depth that a Hamilton, a Chandler, a Basha High School have. But at the end of the day, also as a competitor, you do want to play the best of the best. But once again, I also see same side. If you're rolling out with 30 players and you go play Chandler High School, you know, and their third string running back might be the best player in your team. Those are two very different circumstances.
Yeah, man, this doesn't sound like a love fest. I don't disagree. But you had the year where like Saguaro was super loaded. And so obviously they wanted to be in the Open. They wanted to find out, I think, that year. I think Coach Mons wanted to find out, like, you know, can we bang with Chandler? Also that same year, Bajan Robinson and that Tucson South Point team, like, they were loaded too with Lathan Ransom, and they had dogs. So, like, you know, I think that team wanted to find out, like, hey, can we really compete? Because before that, it was like 2 or 3 straight years of Saguaro South Point and nobody competing with them. And those guys wanted to find out, like, where they stood in the pecking order. And furthermore, the alumni that came back to watch the Saguaro Chandler game, the Soli brothers, Chase Lucas, all those people, there was so much interest from, you know, players past and, you know, everybody coming up. Like, how is this going to go down? I think the Open is a necessary evil.
That's kind of where I wanted to get into too. I think we'll touch on some other portions of, you know, other divisions as well, but in the Open this year especially, it has, to me, in my opinion, a little bit of a college football playoff feel where there's 2 teams, Chandler and Liberty, that just appear to be like ahead of everybody else. Do you guys think like that's going to be a more normal thing as we get used to the Open? Or even this year, do you think there is a team or two that has a chance to unseed a Chandler or a Liberty once we get into those playoffs?
I think as long as like we have the Open division, there's always going to be like 1, 2, or 3 teams that are going to appear to be like the front runners of you know, who's going to end up in the championship. Last year it was Hamilton and Chandler, right? Until Saguaro turned things on late. The year before that, you know, it was I believe Hamilton and Chandler again, and then because Saguaro got, you know, the COVID situation, and then Saguaro Chandler before that. So there's always going to be like 2 or 3 teams that are at the front of the conversation.
100%. And I said on top of that too, I think when you look at Liberty and Chandler, a lot of those teams that they have beat, I know they're itching to play them again. So once again, Saguaro, they've already played both teams. They played both teams extremely tough. And Coach Mons said it, you know, last week in his post-game interview after the win against Highland. He said, hey, we want another opportunity at those guys. We feel like we have the team and the athletes to upset a team like that. Hamilton's in that conversation. Heck, it seems like every week, Centennial. My mentions on Twitter are blowing up with Centennial people saying, we want that chance, you know, give us that chance. And they're going to get a chance with Liberty at the end of the season. And Basha's right there. Basha has the talent to play with anybody in the state. It's just, can they be effective and execute for 4 quarters against that? So yes, we have the outliers, but there are teams that can 100% compete with the top.
From there too, there's a lot of interesting teams that maybe aren't in the Open conversation in 6A and down in 5A that could possibly run the table. Who are some of the teams maybe not in that conversation that you guys have really enjoyed watching or just seeing throughout this season?
My team would be Desert Mountain. So I don't think that a 5A school should represent in the open. I think the best 8 are in the 6A. I've been very clear with that, and I've been public with that statement. With that said, I think Desert Mountain's a really fun team. They have their Power 5 players, but that's a team that plays well together. They play just great complementary football. They have a fun offense to watch. They have stars at the skills positions, and then defensively to get after it. Both their offense and defensive line are really, really strong points of that football team too. So if they do not make the open division, I think they have a really good chance of running away with 5A. And it's still a 5A that's really competitive. You have Desert Edge there. You have Notre Dame Prep there. You have a team like Horizon who gets better every single week. So I don't think that Desert Mountain team should be in the open division. I think it should be the top 8 teams in the state, which I believe are 6A schools this year. But I do think they can make a run in 5A.
I personally want to see Desert Mountain in the open. I want to see them get a decent seed. I want to see them get, obtain like a 5 seed or something like that, and get a crack at the open. I think there's going to be a lot of questions raised if Desert Mountain continues to win out and then win a 5A championship, just for the simple fact that their one loss would be without Brady McDonough at quarterback. So I'm curious to see, how they would shape up. But teams, I guess, kind of outside the conversation, I want to see Desert Edge. All those athletes over there, Andre Gibson, Jalen Dawson, who I don't give enough love to, DJ Warner. That defense is fun to watch. And then up front, they got some dudes, the young boy, Jalaine Miller, and then the big fella, Caleb Jackson Carter. I think that they got some guys, and Hezekiah Millender is kind of, stepping into his own, kind of becoming the guy, quarterback to watch. Another team is Higley. That would be the other team. I want to see Jamar Malone. I want to see him versus these big dogs. I want to see I just want to see him compete at that level with those guys.
And Higley's going to be tested. I mean, you look at region play. Their region is probably the toughest in 5A. So I get A-Lay Quinn Creek this Thursday. So I think with Higley too, they're going to play the best of the best before they even get there. And yes, they have the offensive weapons to play with everybody. It just, can we get over that hump now? But once again, all those teams are going to see again probably in the postseason. And the saying is true. It's hard to beat a good team twice. So,
well, I kind of want to jump into some more of the usual Bleacher Talk stuff because you guys are out at so many games. So many coaches, so many players. We always go, team by team. Who's got the best shoes, drip? Who would you want on Ox? And I feel like you guys know these players well enough. So if you guys could each choose one player, we're talking the whole state of Arizona with the best drip overall. Chili, I know that you're a shoe guy yourself. So what do you think?
Dude, my man Jacoby Lane is always flexing something on feet, post game, pre game, all that stuff, and he be flipping them so quick. He's one. The other one is Cole Martin though. Cole Martin's got some serious swag. I got, he's all slugged up, got the grills going. Dude, I mess with his jewelry game too. Like you guys got to see some of these kids when they're traveling for sevens. Their flex game is tough.
Cody, you have anyone else besides Jacoby and Cole?
I have an entire team. That's Desert Edge. I feel like on Chili's two-piece, because Chili's had at least 2 or 3 segments of this, especially in the offseason. He loves to do this. The Carter brothers represent every single episode. And they bring out, I remember you were interviewing one of the Carter brothers, and he went into his wardrobe and had like 60 pairs of shoes. And I was like, I mean, heck, that's gonna be used as sponsorship opportunities in the future. Like, this is incredible to get his Desert Edge players maybe some college scholarships. Like, he had so many shoes, I could not believe it. But I that trickles down to the players because those guys are definitely swagged out. It's in pregame, in postgame, at practice. That's just a fun team. That is a really fun environment that the Carter brothers are doing. It's more than football, and everything that they're teaching those kids is more than football, and they're going to make them successful. But that's the most drip in the state right there is that team.
And you guys are out on the sidelines with us a lot. I know we've all been together at some games that have had just crazy atmospheres. Last year, Battle for Arizona Avenue. This year, Chandler Saguaro. What are some of the schools that you guys think have just been having the most fun? Just, maybe some of the pregame stuff or with the fans or just the people on the sideline. Like, where are you having the most fun at?
Oh, hey, Claudia, we were there. Tukey Bowl
Yeah.
with Mountain Point student section, going with that Keisha Cole. That was crazy.
No push-ups, but yes, they were singing.
That was
verse.
crazy.
My only thing with that though, guys, is Mountain Point doing that consistently every single week. Or is that just Tukey Bowl? Was that just Tukey? Because you know a school's popping when it's a random Thursday, Friday night game and they're going crazy. How about Mountain View? Chili, we were there for that Mountain View Thursday game, and that was like that game reminded me of premier Friday Night Lights, like an old Mountain View versus Mesa High School, like what they talk about in the 90s and 80s. It was a Thursday night. Usually most students do not go and support their school on Thursday nights for whatever reason. Attendance is always lower. Mountain View was packed. There was standing room only, went all across the track. They had everything there. Everything. That place was crazy. And that was a random Thursday night game.
Well, true.
We got to write down some of those schools for our awards.
Well, I love catching up with you guys. Every time we get to do it, I feel like I learn something new, and hopefully we do the same for you guys in some capacity. But anytime we can have the two of you on Bleacher Talk or anything else Sports 360 AZ, you know we love it. So thank you both so much for joining us, and stick with us. When we come back, we will get into our social spotlight with Eliav Gabai.
Welcome back to Bleacher Talk. I'm Jordan Spurgeon alongside Claudia Collins, and it's time to bring in Eliav Gabai for some social spotlight. There's so much energy, though, that's going to come from this social spotlight that he's been draining it all day and took it from Claudia's house. So she's right her phone now because Eliav's got all that energy built up that literally her power went out right before recording this. So.
Well, I don't know. For the record, I don't know when it went out because I haven't even told you guys this yet. I would love to be wearing my Sports 360 AZ shirt, but at some point while I was teaching earlier today, I must have lost power while my stuff was in the dryer. I came at lunchtime, put my stuff in the dryer and got it going. And when I got back, everything was still soaking wet and I had no power, which tells me it went out while I was drying my clothes. So it's just one of those days, you know, but hey, this is what we do instead. We roll with it.
That's right. That's right. What is Brad's life stuff? Right. That's what Brad says. Life stuff, you know, so we're still going to have a good time. Minor. You know, like Spurge said, just blame me. We're all good. It's all fun.
There we go.
Okay. Well, let's continue with the W's. Even though Claudia has a little bit of an L right now with the electricity, we're fine. We're still going to take W's. Let's continue with the W's with Jason Mons and Saguaro. They did get a win this past week against Highland, a big one because it landed them in the open rankings after I know there was a lot of chatter about them not being in the open rankings. And you know what? We might have to give credit to some donuts because the Donuts for Dubs, hashtag Donuts for Dubs, by head coach Jason Mons. He does this with his family every single game day. So cute. I mean, look at these pictures. They're adorable with his kids. And you know what? It worked. And I'm not going to negate it because tradition is tradition. I've had a couple of fun game day traditions, you know, the classic wearing the suits with your friends, going to the game. What about y'all? What are some classic game day traditions pregame?
I've got to say
go ahead.
I've got to say I'm a music person. But I feel like tennis is just kind of different, especially because I played singles. Like it was very like individual. And so I could kind of do my own thing. My only thing I'll say is I just don't like donuts at all. So I feel like I know, unpopular opinion. I would be like a cookies. I don't know. I need to come up with some sort of like rhyme or something. Like I like cookies and brownies and like cake and other things. I just don't like donuts. They're like too sweet. I don't know.
The internet's going to destroy you for that one. I'm not even going to.
I will say I can only have like one or two most times, maybe three, because then
they are sugar. It's
too much,
it's a lot, but like a good old Krispy Kreme glazed donut.
I was simple. Game day, 2 or 3 peanut butter jelly sandwiches, like a couple hours before the game. good to go every time without fail. If I didn't have bread, it would be rice cakes instead, and that would work too.
Okay.
Guys, I sound so ridiculous, but I can't have that either because I'm allergic to peanuts. So like
Yep.
none of your
So
like
what do you
food
have
options
for
are working
fun?
for me.
What do you eat for sweets?
I just asked my husband to bring me Milky Ways from his work. So I like sweets.
Okay.
It's just, I was just like, we don't have foods right now. We don't have a microwave working or anything. So bring me Milky Ways.
That works. That works. You know, I don't have too much of a sweet tooth, but when I do, it's tough to avoid either any of the Twix, Snickers, any of those easily are going to be found
Always good.
up my alley. But we're going to continue focusing on some AZ high school football. And this time, Mr. Brock Purdy. Yes, it was a blowout. I understand, but he still got on the field and got to show out a little bit of what he can do. Listen, not too shabby, 4 of 9. He did throw a pick, but hey, you got to love seeing him out there for the Niners. I know everyone's talking about Christian McCaffrey on the Niners this week. I'm talking about Brock Purdy on the Niners this week. So we love to see that.
Yeah, going from being the last pick in the draft to making the roster, and now all of a sudden he is the backup quarterback. I mean, circumstances are changing with Trey Lance being out and Jimmy G taking over, and anything happens, Brock Purdy's got to be ready. So it's it's always possible that we see him a little bit more this season.
I love the underdog story. And I don't know why this made me think of it, but have you guys seen American Underdog? It's the movie about Kurt Warner.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, incredible movie. Like that is one of those, like, if you have not watched it, and I'm not getting paid, this is nothing like that. I just I watched it on the plane a few months ago, and I was like sobbing in my seat, and I was like, oh my gosh, like he's a local coach here, and he's like our Arizona guy. And it's just so cool to learn more about Kurt Warner, and he's like a true underdog. So, I always like an underdog story. So anytime that we can bring something like that up, I'm all for it.
And the relationship between him and his wife throughout the movie, it was beautiful. I love how they
So
also,
cute.
they gave us that perspective a little bit more,
Yeah.
which is always nice. Now, listen, I know this is probably pretty obvious, but I was not the type of athlete to win a lot of athletic awards back in high school. So something like all academic would have been right up my alley, because we are recognizing student athletes all across Arizona. If you can think of anyone that you want to nominate who has some good grades and does good work on and off the field, this time we're highlighting off the field, go ahead and apply. We posted it all over our social media. We are now accepting nominations for the fall all academic team. Listen, it looks great on a resume, and it looks great when you're trying to represent the work you did in high school. And I don't really feel like I should sell this much, because this is for the students, and we love doing this for the students. So
yeah. One thing I'd also like to urge coaches and players as a reminder is, unless we get the application, there's just so many of you and so many students that we want to highlight. So we have to take in the applications in order to acknowledge everybody. And that's what we want to do. Everybody who deserves it, which there's so many deserving students, we want to show you that love. So just make sure that as a coach, parent, player, that when you put in these applications or request to put in these applications, that you keep in mind that if you're not posted, but you have the grades to make it, it's only because we didn't get an application, not because we didn't want to show you some love. So that's, once again, a shameless plug to head to our website, sports360az.com, our social media, and all of that to apply, so you can get that shout out. And I love that, Eliav. I haven't thought about putting it on a resume or college application, but that's the perfect place for it.
Yeah, and the due date is December 7th, just so everyone's aware, December 7th at noon. So make sure you get it in before then.
And get it all in, communicate. I know there's some awesome team moms out there that submit. So coaches, make sure you're in contact with them so you're not double, triple submitting. Issues that we're able to fix, but definitely all of that, want to make sure we get these guys all the love that they deserve for killing it in the classroom. So definitely head over to sports360az.com and see our form for applicants.
Yep, that's all I got.
Thanks, Eliav. We appreciate everybody tuning in. We're all over the place today. Things are moving and changing and everything's happening, but fun episode of Bleacher Talk. I think so, Claudia.
Oh yeah. You know what? With all of the curveballs thrown our way, with crazy schedules, we've had awesome guests. I mean, Eliav and Coop are always, regular faces, but to get Chili and Cody on, who are just such experts, is so great. So, you know what? Even with loss of power and crazy schedules and being on a phone instead of computer in my, studio and all of those things, Bleacher Talk's my favorite time of the week.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. We will see you guys next week.